Okay, so I made a comment hi, my name is Jo, by the way. I made a comment in my Twilight reading vlog, I'll have it linked somewhere, that the only thing that's not like other girls about Bella Swan is that she likes to read Wuthering Heights for fun, and why would anybody want to subject themselves to that kind of torture? I should have known that somebody was going to call me out in that video, and somebody did. So, Autumn, this video is for you. I read Wuthering Heights for fun. I was originally going to do this kind of like vlog style situation, and I felt like the vlog was kind of going towards a more negative vein. This book is a very negative book. Like, none of these characters are likable. There's some horrible things that happen, and I was talking about those, but I felt like when I was going back and rewatching the clips that I had, I felt like I sounded negative, but my feelings toward the book are overall positive. So I just wanted to come in here and just do like a traditional type of review. So all of that being said, today's video is going to be my review of Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. I'll have timestamps so that you can navigate this video however you see fit, but without further ado, let's just get right into it. Emily Bronte's writing style is very accessible, I would say, for a classic. That being said, I did have to adjust a little bit of my brain to get back into that sort of writing style, the British humor, you know, different references to things that are just obviously not of my time period, because I haven't read a classic since I was in college. It did take me a second to recalibrate my brain back into classic mode. Now, Emily Bronte's writing, there are some of the most soul-snatching, heart-wrenching quotes in this book that are so vivid in my head. I mean, I've tabbed this book. Like, I've tabbed it for pretty much everything. Like, you can't really see because the gold edges, but so this story is a frame narrative, which I was not expecting. We're not following Catherine and Heathcliff in a first-person, you know, point of view. We're following them through the eyes of Nellie the housemaid. And some of the accounts of the events throughout the story are, you know, second person, third person, removed from Nellie and also from the primary characters of Catherine and Heathcliff. But I never felt distanced from them. I always felt connected to every character that was on the page and every aspect of the story. And I also think that Nellie was the perfect character to tell the story because she's a housemaid, you know, she's kind of in the background of everything. She knows things, she hears things, she sees things. She's oftentimes, you know, these people's confidants, so she has more information of the bigger picture than I think we would have gotten if we were solely following Catherine or Heathcliff. But I mean, of course you have to question whether or not Nellie's accounts of these events are 100% accurate or if they are, you know, biased in any way, but I feel like we have to take it for what it is because this is the only, you know, account of the story that we have. So I mean, you could argue that Nellie may have some biases, or it might be a telephone game situation in which it's not 100% accurate, but I'm taking it as Nellie's account is 100% accurate because that's the only view of the story that we have. The setting of this book is very isolated. We're outside of society, and therefore this place that we're in is kind of like a cesspool of actions that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate or proper in a more societal setting. It's dark, it's isolated, we don't really venture too far into the world outside or into a more like proper society. We're kind of just like within this little area, you know? And so the focus is not necessarily on the setting, the outside world. It's really honed in on these characters and their relationships with one another. The plot is that. And you could argue that this is a revenge story, which I think that is a part of it, but I don't think that's the whole. I found within my reading of this book that the cycles of abuse within this family and the concept of possession, I found those plot points to be much more engaging and interesting to me rather than just painting this as just a plain old revenge story. Now the characters are where this story really shines, both in its darkness and also in just its complexity. So Heathcliff is taken in by this family and he becomes the favored son of this man named Earnshaw. And Earnshaw has two other children, Henley and Catherine. And Henley, I think, has a lot of resentment towards Heathcliff. And so when Earnshaw dies, Henley takes over the estate. Henley abuses Heathcliff. He's not nice to him in any way, shape, or form. And Heathcliff takes that abuse that he experienced at the hands of Henley and starts to branch out and abuse everyone else around him instead of like actually dealing with his issues, you know? It's interesting because Heathcliff becomes what he came to despise in his childhood. He becomes the abuser. He becomes this nasty man that Henley was to him in his childhood. He becomes what he hated. Heathcliff sees Catherine as a sort of prize that he has every right to possess after he has solved this question of his finances, right? And when he finds out that Catherine chose to marry Edgar, Heathcliff goes out to marry Edgar's sister Isabella and abuse her as a kind of placeholder for Edgar because he can't directly harm Edgar for taking his supposed prize away from him. That's why I think Heathcliff is such a compelling character, because he has every right to be pissed about the way that he was treated as a child. He has every right to be angry at these people, but instead of letting it go and moving on with his life and bettering himself, he tears everyone else around him down. He tears Edgar down, he tears Catherine down, he tears Isabella down, he tears Henley down, he tears his son Linton down, he tears Catherine's daughter, aptly named another Catherine, down. He tears everyone else around him down to the ground to where he is the only one that is left standing. He lets his anger and his pride and his desire to possess just crawl inside of him and fester until he becomes something beastly. He is just a villain. He is a villain through and through. Catherine is an interesting one because I think she learned a lot of her faults from her childhood, because she didn't really get any attention from her father unless she was doing something naughty. So she learned to be mischievous, she learned to be manipulative, she learned to throw these huge tantrums just to get anything that she wanted, and she solely wanted the attention of everyone else around her. Think of any and all negative attributes that you could give to somebody, and I think that Catherine would possess almost all of them. Heathcliff is so much more open and honest about his villainy, right? But Catherine irked me so much more because of the way she treats other people. She is genuinely one of the most unlikable characters I have ever read about in my entire life. She abuses her servants. She acts like she's sick to make her husband feel guilty to get what she wants. Like, she's just a very nasty, nasty woman. Now, the other characters, we do have other characters, and they're all equally miserable in their own sorts of way. Now, what I find interesting when I hear people talk about Wuthering Heights is that it's a very polarizing book. You know, you either love it or you hate it. What I also find interesting is that a lot of people who both love it and hate it go into this book expecting a romance, like a you know, hero heroine romantic story, and that's just not what it is. I think that people get romance and romanticism very mixed up in their head. This is a gothic romantic book. This is not a romance. It's mysterious. It's often melancholy and dark. There's an emphasis on emotion over reason and chaos over logic. All of this is found in Wuthering Heights, and all of these things are aspects of romanticism, not romance. It's not a story of love conquering all. It's a story of a dangerous infatuation that seeps into the very marrow of these people's bones and causes them to just obliterate each other and everyone else around them. Heathcliff even warns us that he is in no way a romantic hero in the narrative. I think we should just take him at his word on that one. And I think that if this story were just merely about a romance between these two people, I don't think that it in any way would have stood the test of time like it has, nor do I think it would have been so polarizing for people. Romanticism is meant to focus on emotion and passion, but it is not meant to be an idealized version of a grand love story. At least not in this case. Anyway, this book is supposed to be dark. You're not supposed to like the characters, and you're certainly not supposed to root for them to be together, because I think the world might actually explode. Wuthering Heights is beautifully dark. It is deliciously irritating, and it's poignantly disgusting. And I think that's okay. I really loved it. I am so glad that Autumn got me to read this. I'm not sure if she will agree with anything that I said in this video, but I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was fantastic. Wow, these guys are all awful, and I can't wait to see what awful thing they do next, right? And I have so many other classics on my shelf that I'm like, huh, maybe I should read that now. Anyways, I really liked Wuthering Heights. I gave it 4 stars. I hope you have a fantastic day. Let me know down below if you agreed with what I said in this review. If you like this video and you want to see more from me, make sure to join the NotSoAverageJo army. We would love to have you here. Ciao.